This is part 2 of your Valentine's Day two-part episode, news episode, I should say. On part 2, I'm going to be talking about Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm going to be talking about Summer House. I'm going to be talking about a whole lot of Beverly Hills, the Valley Persian style, some mention of the regular Valley as well, actually. And in proper Valentine's Day fashion, there's lots of rumors about possible new couplings in this in this episode. Well, there's also divorce talk as well, so I guess it's not all Valentine's Day-ish, but enjoy the episode, everyone. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Okay, everyone, let's start with some Real Housewives of Potomac news. Recently on Watch What Happens Live, Ashley was on, and, being her messy Ashley self, she was asked why she gets a pass to hook up with Charissa's son and flirt with Mauricio, but has an issue with Stacey dating Chris Samuels. I mean, it's a fair question. And I think Andy said when he asked this, this was the number one question. Ashley responds that she spoke to Kyle about it on camera. So Kyle Richards. So Andy was like, no spoilers, but but apparently they did speak at the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. So we will see a conversation about that. And she said she did not flirt with Mauricio. Okay. So she maintains that. Okay. Yes. You didn't flirt aggressively. I think you flirted maybe a little. It wasn't that bad. But I do think that if Giselle wasn't there to kind of, block things, I do think that she would have. And she was certainly thirsting over him. So I'm sorry. Let's just be honest. He's an older guy with money. Okay. And he doesn't look like Michael Darby. So that I'm sure is extra tempting to Ashley. She says, in terms of the whole thing with Stacey, that she just wants Stacey to tell the truth. And if Stacey would just tell the truth, it would shut her up. Nothing will shut you up, Ashley. Let's be honest. If Stacey told the truth about that, you would just latch onto something else. And where are you telling the truth? Because don't make me go back to the lies that you told and the cover-ups you told for years when it comes to your, ass-grabbing ex-husband. Ashley also, and Candy, not Candy. Why did I just say Candy? I meant Andy. Okay. Ashley and Andy also reveal on this Watch What Happens Live that Giselle, Robin, Ashley, and Candace were reunited on Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, and that they, kind of hashed some things out. It wasn't a big fight, nothing like that, but they did talk and they were reunited, which we did see pictures floating around of that. And people were like, oh my God, Candace is in the same room as the Green-Eyed Bandits and Ashley. And I mean, listen, I was shocked too, because, they did not leave on good terms. Let's be honest. So Ashley also said that she would like Angel to stop pushing the narrative that she said that Bobby is an angry black man. She said Ashley says she was not pushing that narrative, and she only referred to his temper because he was rude with production and raised his voice with them a few times. Okay, but aren't you kind of doing that now? I'm just saying, she's like, no, I didn't do that, but let me do that because this man raised his voice at production and lost his temper. So you are doing it. Ashley is kind of a Karen. I'm sorry, but it's true. Ashley's always been kind of a Karen, and it's very obnoxious because she pretends that she's not. But it is so funny to me that while denying that she did this, she continues to do it and actually makes it worse. I mean, that's a very Ashley thing to do. So you just proved Angel's point. Sorry. And even maybe Bobby did raise his voice at production, which he should not be doing. I hate when the Bravo Lebs are rude and speak poorly to production, they think they're under them or something. I really don't like that. But, there's a better way to bring it up. Like, I didn't like the way he spoke with production, or I think he was a little disrespectful with production. Like, there are better ways to say it. So Angel has responded to these comments that Ashley made on Watch What Happens Live. She was on a podcast interview and says that Ashley is code switching and tried to dog whistle her husband as an aggressive black man. She says it was nasty because that's, in regards to Ashley claiming that Bobby has a temper. She also explained on this podcast that, and I mean, again, like I see what Angel's saying. Like, I think she is right, because I think the way that Ashley is painting it does kind of sound that way. And, especially when we're not given like the context. Like, again, like I said before, I don't like when Bravo celebrities or people on the shows like talk down to production and stuff like that. But, I do need to hear the context and the full story. And I don't expect that when you're working on a television show that everybody always gets along swimmingly. But there is a difference between expressing your dislike of something or your frustration and like being sort of like abusive or aggressive with staff. Right. And Ashley is definitely implying that he's like, abusive and aggressive, like with the words that she's using. I know she didn't use those words, but that is what she's implying. Okay. Now, the other thing is that Angel on this podcast said that the alleged eviction story surrounding her short-term rental properties was really just the owners thought that the move out date was July 1st instead of July 11th, and that everyone is trying to make it into something that it's not, and it's not any of that stuff. Okay. Well, it's still weird. I can't like fully jump on this narrative with Angel here. Like, I'm not a huge Angel fan. I mean, I'm not, but I am. Like, I'm not a fan of her personality that much. She's kind of like, wah, wah. But I am a fan of her on the show because she has brought us so much joy with just being a disaster and not knowing what she's doing. But it's very hard for me to believe this eviction notice thing. Now, I don't think she was getting evicted because she doesn't have money and she's secretly broke and they spent it all. Like, I don't think it's like some, big conspiracy or anything like that. But I do believe that it was in relation to like how long she thought the show was going to film and that she wasn't necessarily interested in staying in Potomac with these ladies because she doesn't like them. I do think that that's probably closer to the truth, right? Okay. Now Candace was also on Watch What Happens Live recently because of the traders. And I just wanted to give her perspective on the whole, like, I maybe should have mentioned this earlier just for it to flow better, but sorry. She mentioned kind of her perspective on reuniting with Giselle, Robin, and Ashley. She says it was cordial. But despite being cordial, the audience will find it nostalgic. I think I know exactly what she means by that. So that means they're going to kind of take a few digs at each other, throw a little bit of shade, but they're not going to get too heavy into it because this is like Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, and that's kind of, it's not really like about that, and that's going to be it. But it's, it's not going to be like, I love you, oh my God, I missed you. Like, it's not, we're not getting that. None of us are expecting that either. So now Ashley was on a different interview on a podcast, and she said that she doesn't care if RHOP fans say she has no storylines. She says that she has given blood, sweat, and tears to this franchise and deserves a place on it. Yeah, I mean, she did give a lot when she was married to Michael. But I think the thing that the fans are noticing is that anything kind of like interesting about Ashley and entertaining about Ashley revolved around her husband. And now that he's gone, she's just like this kind of like annoying gnat that's there to just like stir things up, often in an artificial kind of like, inauthentic way. And it can just be obnoxious. And it's like she's bringing these like dumb storyline, like the Chris Samuel storyline with Stacey. It's like these things that are so stupid that no one cares about, So I think that's kind of what she's missing. And like, it's got to be hard to kind of realize that the reason you were a good housewife was because, your husband was a toxic ass grabber and everyone was enthralled by that. Like, it's like, really, Ashley doesn't have any, like, in my opinion, iconic one-liners or moments that I can think of. Like, and she's been on TV a long time and she has none of that. Even Kyle Richards has like one. Like, you're such an effing liar, Camille. Like, at least Kyle has that one moment, right? It's like Ashley has nothing. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, one good thing about her, it's fun to watch Karen come after her. That is always entertaining. So, yeah, that could be something. I don't know. But again, it's, you know, it's not really something that she's doing and saying. Speaking of Karen, Karen had her sit down with Andy. I have my thoughts about it. I think that she took more ownership than I expected Karen to take. Okay, that's what I'm going to say, to give her a little bit of grace. I also think, though, that she didn't handle it as well as it could have been handled, and she still fell back on some of her kind of delusional Karen ways, right? For example, kind of acting like she's like, as I saw someone tweet, the Moses of the people, you know, guiding everybody. That was, you know, there's one thing with, like, when you're somebody who's dealt with addiction or somebody who has an addiction, it's like one thing you learn is that the ego is kind of like something that you have to overcome and get in check. Like, you know, a lot of it, well, you know, I don't have a problem, or, you know, I can quit whenever I want, or, you know, my drug dealer has the drugs that don't have fentanyl in them. Like, these are the kind of things that people say to themselves, that their ego says, or like, you know, who is my family to tell me I need to go to rehab? Like, that's the kind of thing. And I do think with Karen, I still see quite a bit of ego. And, you know, that is the kind of like therapy and stuff they work through in rehab centers. So, you know, she keeps referencing this rehab center she went to. Like, was it a real rehab center or was it just like general therapy? Like, I don't know. I'm not buying everything. I think that even if she doesn't consider herself an alcoholic and instead has some sort of drug problem, which I know she's trying to make it like antidepressants, prescription pills. Number one, most antidepressants aren't addictive, but whatever. Or they're not going to give you some crazy high. I guess if she's talking about like lorazepam or something like that. But, you know, I think her trying to kind of like place it more on legal prescription drugs. Like, it's kind of like Craig with his Adderall thing, when I think most likely that was a cocaine addiction, which is why I think everybody was so impressed when Carl admitted to his cocaine addiction, because it was like somebody just admitting, I'm addicted to an illegal drug, right? There seems to be this fear of doing that. And maybe Karen does have a drug problem, and maybe the drinking is sort of secondary. Um, you know, it's like once she's high, then she starts drinking. But like, you know, I can a little bit understand what she was saying in terms of like, the drink didn't call her, the drug did. Now, that there could be some truth in all of that. But I think from a PR standpoint, even if there is truth in that, which again, I still think there's a high chance that she's just an alcoholic who's still not fully admitting it for whatever reason, it's probably better from a PR standpoint to just say, I'm an alcoholic. Because once you've had 4 DUIs, you better be saying you're an alcoholic. Because that's the only way you're going to get any like leeway from the audience, is to admit it, to say I'm going to rehab, to say I'm sober and clean or whatever, and I'm doing all the steps, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's the only way out of this. As a larger chested woman, one of my biggest issues is that I always need to be wearing a bra. But here's the thing, I want to be comfortable basically all the time. And, you know, I go on these websites and I see these little triangle bralettes and things like that. And I'm just like, I can't wear that. It's never like, it's just never going to work on me. And this is where Skims has come in and kind of saved the day, to be honest, because now with their Fits Everybody Scoop bralette, I am able to wear a bralette. and it looks good. It doesn't give the dreaded like uniboob. It doesn't give the dreaded look of like it's all just meshed together and you have no form and no shape there. It actually has support, but it's also comfortable and it looks really good. Like you don't lose your shape. And for me, that's important. And I want to look good in it. And I want to be able to nap in it. And I also want to be able to go to the grocery store and do all that stuff. So shop my favorite bras and underwear at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop down menu that follows. The new year is officially here, and I think we're all getting pretty tired of winter. I know I am. So I'm keeping myself cheerful by looking forward to spring and getting my house spring ready with Wayfair. Wayfair has everything I need to rejuvenate my house for spring. One thing I'm working on right now and hoping to have done by spring is I'm redoing our primary bedroom. It's always been super basic, but my husband's putting up some wainscoting. And once he's done, I'll be adding a gorgeous wallpaper that I got from Wayfair. They have so many options, like the original type, peel and stick, wall decals. So I got this gorgeous woodland wallpaper. It's very subtle and in a beautiful faded green, very calming, and it's perfect with the more traditional wainscoting we're doing. It was so convenient how many options Wayfair had for wallpaper and literally everything else home. Plus, the best part, free shipping, of course. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Like from, a PR stand. And I know it shouldn't all just be for the audience. It should be for herself. But I'm just saying, this sit down with Andy was not for therapy. It was for entertainment. So she was also on, what's it called? The Sherry Show. And, she said she kind of tried to like explain or clarify some of the comments she made during the Andy sit down. And she said, let me make this clear. Like I was dead wrong for drinking and driving. I could have killed someone. So she says all that kind of stuff. So I think she knows that her interview didn't do what it should have done. So she kind of tries to explain her way out of that a bit. But again, like all of that she had such a golden opportunity with Andy to just say, I'm an alcoholic. I have a problem. I did drink and drive, and I am never going to do it again. And I am going to work my ass off to make sure that I never do that again and that I stay sober. That was really all she had to say. And she still kind of danced around it. So I do think that was troublesome. And I think adding in the ego parts about like her, like helping people and teaching, like it just wasn't the right road to go down. Like it was just, and again, I think like Karen, in some ways, she can't get out of her own way. She really can't. Right. And there are some people who just can't get out of their own way. I mean, I remember I heard Reza was saying that about Jill Zarin in his interview. He's like, Jill can't get out of her own way. There are some people who are like that. And I think the thing with Karen is her not getting out of her own way. She keeps getting sort of rewarded for it because it's made for a lot of funny, iconic TV moments. So I think that's part of the problem too. Now, Robin and Giselle were unreasonably shady, and they responded to Karen's sit down with Andy. Why can I not say Andy's name today? He's Amy, he's Candy, he's all over the place. So they say that basically, direct quote, what I felt like I saw, this is from Robin, was a lot of blame shifting and a lot of deflection. Yeah, I think that's what everybody feels. Like, I think that's kind of a fair assessment. And it sucks. Like, I didn't want that to be, I think we all want Karen to do better. We all saw what happened with Shannon Bedore and how easily Shannon was able to get herself in the audience's good graces by just fully owning it and making no excuses and just being like, I was wrong, film me doing my breathalyzer, etc. And Shannon didn't even quit drinking. And she still, because again, she never was like, well, he triggered me and this. I mean, she did say she got into a fight with him, etc., but it didn't sound like excuses. And I think Karen keeps coming in with like the ego and how people can learn from her. And why did it take her 60 years to get there and it took the other one 20 years? Which, by the way, that logic makes no sense. You make more stupid mistakes when you're young. You shouldn't be making stupid mistakes when you're 60, Karen. Like, she's got it all flipped around. Okay, our last piece of Potomac news is in regards to Kiarna. So Kiarna Stewart is speaking out after bankruptcy papers surface. So some papers surfaced of her filing for bankruptcy in March 2023. Okay. And yeah, so people are kind of like, okay, so what's happening with this? Can you explain it? And she says basically in an exclusive statement to the Neighborhood Talk, she said, I'm aware that a personal financial moment from 2023 is being framed as gossip, and I want to address it directly because transparency matters more to me than pretending life is always polished. She said, let's be clear, bankruptcy is not a character flaw. It's a legal tool that many entrepreneurs use when they take real risks, build real businesses, and sometimes have to rebuild. That is part of business. That is part of life. She said, I am the first Black woman to own a medical spa of its kind in Baltimore. That didn't happen by playing it safe. So the documents, which listed her monthly income at $2,000, were initially shared by blogger Vanessa of Reality T Recap. But Stewart says, the bigger picture is growth and resilience. Real success comes with real setbacks, real lessons, and real resilience, she explained. I'm a real housewife because I live a real life, one that includes ambition, risk, rebuilding, and winning again. I'm still standing, I'm still building, and that's the story worth telling. I mean, I think that's not a bad response. I think she's not the first housewife to have filed bankruptcy at some point. I'm sure there's more that we don't even know about. And I also think I think one thing for people is the reason they look into these things is not to necessarily be like, you're a bad person, you filed bankruptcy. It's more like which housewives are pulling the wool over our eyes, right? It's like what I talked about in part 1 with Lynn Curtin. It's like who's pretending they're rich and then is going to get an eviction notice and is actually poor, right? We have quite a few of those across all franchises, right? Even Beverly Hills, the franchise that's known for the most money, I guarantee you Erica and Dorit have like some of the least money of everyone. So it's like, besides what they get paid for the show, right? But, it's kind of like, we know a lot of you are grifters, etc. So I feel like as an audience, we're always kind of like looking out for that because here's the thing, being a housewife, part of it is your financial status. Like part of it is being rich. And, I know we have had some housewives who've kind of been the outliers like Robin Dixon or Monica Garcia, which I think we've kind of let those ones slide just because they had such interesting personal stories that we wanted to know about. But generally, the general rule is the money thing. But, I think she's smart to kind of just own it and say like, yes, this did happen to me. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe she's grifting us again in this statement. Maybe her business is not as successful as we think it is right now. I have no idea. But, until I hear otherwise, I don't really care that much. Okay, let's go to some Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Oh, wait, one last thing about Potomac. Karen Huger's sit-down interview with Andy, by the way, was like the highest rated episode of the year, of the season. And it brought in big live numbers. So clearly Karen's still bringing the viewers. So I don't think she's getting fired anytime soon, FYI. Okay, now let's go to Beverly Hills. So one thing is kind of like a little follow-up, which I guess it's not really a follow-up, but it kind of just a follow-up to something Kyle said on the show. So on not this week's episode, but last week, Kyle Richards made a comment where she was kind of like taking a dig at Amanda about her saying that Dorit verbally accosted her. And in her confessional, Kyle was like, it's giving Crystal Kung Minkoff. So Crystal responds to this shade and says, college isn't for everyone. Hashtag humble brag, hashtag reading is hard. I'm sorry, it's funny. It's a good comeback, okay? You know what? And I don't think like Crystal is the type who would just randomly be like, let me shade you for not going to college. But I think if you start with her, it's kind of like the famous Candy Burris line, like, don't start none, won't be none, right? So it's like you started it, and now I'm going to bring this up. So she says, Crystal was replying to some people in the comments and said, words are hard for some. Millennial equals emotional intelligence. And, I'm around the same age as Crystal. So, I'm Team Crystal here. And then says, when Garcelle is your storyline for 3 episodes, it's a problem. Okay. So she's throwing some shade at the show in general as well. I mean, she's not wrong. Like 3 episodes, that was kind of their storyline. And I'm not going to lie, the beginning of this season was boring AF, and some life has been breathed into it. Okay. It is waking up. It's better. I've enjoyed the last, 2-3 episodes. They're much better than the first few. Sutton, I forgot she existed. Like, I was watching this week's episode, and when Sutton came on and was talking to her daughter on the phone, I was like, oh yeah, Sutton's on this show. Like, I literally forgot about Sutton. Isn't that crazy? Because she's been like the focal point of the last few seasons. So it just shows how much the group dynamics can change based on one person leaving and based on like people, again, like Sutton just like let me kind of bow down to the cool girl group. And now she's like one of the most boring cast members. Maybe she's going to become more exciting in the next few episodes. I don't know. But she's really taking a back seat. And I think it's a mistake. I think she's going to get herself fired if she keeps going down this road. Like, I don't think she realizes the reason you've been on this show for so long and you've been successful is because you're like a kooky rich lady who has temper tantrums and loses her shit and is drunk on camera a lot, etc. And you do call people out on stuff that, the Fox Force 5 won't. Like, that's why you've been successful on this show. So if she wants to sacrifice that to be like Kyle's, bestie, then you're not going to be on the show soon. And let me tell you right now, Sutton, if you're listening, which you're not, but let's just pretend. If Sutton was listening, I would say to her, the second you're off the show, Kyle will not be speaking to you anymore. I'm sorry. She might invite you to like a random party where they're filming just for like the sake of production of the show, but that's all you're getting. So speaking of breathing life into the show, I mean, that is kind of what Amanda's doing. I know everybody hates Amanda and thinks she's so annoying, etc., which she is. She's insufferable. She's so obnoxious, but she is creating storyline. Let's just be honest. Like Rachel is too. Like Rachel Zoe, I think, I liked her from the jump, like personality wise. I wasn't sure how much she was going to bring in terms of the conflict. And I was like, okay, Amanda's at least like, Amanda's like the bone that they threw to all the dogs, and the dogs on this show like need something to chew on. And Amanda's is kind of that, if we're being honest. And maybe she's, I don't know if she's figuring that out or not. But here's the thing with Amanda. She's such an easy target. Like, she's so annoying and she's so obnoxious and like delusional that she's such an easy target. So I I can't even get that excited when like Erica and like Bose or whoever go after her. Cause I'm like, yeah, you guys aren't wrong with your critiques of Amanda. You're not wrong, but they're such easy opinions to have. Like, they don't take any thought or, nuance. It's just like, wow, she's annoying and delusional and her business sounds like bullshit. Like, yes, exactly. Anybody could figure that out. Like, I'm sorry. It's not, if she was a really good con artist, you'd have half the audience on her side, which you don't, right? You have like maybe 10%, and most of the tweets I see supporting Amanda are not really like supporting Amanda. They're more just like, who are these women to criticize? Which, sorry, those 10% have a point, because don't come to me and be like, oh, this woman's a con artist and and nouveau riche and whatever, when you're friends with Dorit and Erica. Like, Erica literally pretended she had a pop career, scammed a designer and plane crash victims, etc. Dorit and PK have been giving con artist vibes from the jump. When Erica and Dorit both started on the show, it was both, let me show off how much money I have. They were so tacky and in your face about it. Like now the way Amanda does it is way more annoying than the way that they did it. So yes. And, again, she's low hanging fruit because her business is sort of like, what do you do? Like, it's like Erica's husband's a lawyer. So, okay, that was kind of at the time we just were accepted that. And PK were like, okay, he's a manager. Like, what is he? Like, there were questions about that, but it's kind of like they are pretty hypocritical. Like others in the group can question it who have actual like careers and resumes. That's fine. Like Rachel Zoe and Bose and stuff. But then it's still hypocritical when I think because like Bose like thinks like Erica and Dorit are so great. So it's like sorry, just to be honest though, your other two besties are not that much better than Amanda. Like they're kind of the same. I guess they're less annoying to her. That's probably really what it comes down to. But, people there was some talk that Amanda had left the show because she stopped filming the after show. So people were like, oh, she's leaving early. She stopped filming mid-season after a feud with Dorit and others escalates, etc. But Andy confirmed on his radio show that Amanda Francis did not quit, that she's still on the show. And then Amanda reposted the report that she had stopped filming and said, LOL, this is not true. I have my final interview, Watch What Happens Live, and the reunion all on my calendar. Okay, so she is, which good. I think she should be at the reunion. I hate when people leave and I was so annoyed. I'm still not over that season where, what was her name? Brittany, was it Britt or Brittany didn't film the reunion for Atlanta? Like I thought that really kind of threw a wrench in things and the season would have been much stronger if she had just stayed and played it out. So I'm glad that she's going to show up. I think we need that at the reunion for sure. Meanwhile, Amanda has done a few interviews here. She did a sit down with Housewives Nightcap in podcast. And when asked if or how much she likes being on the show, she says, I don't think it's very much fun. That's such an Amanda answer. I don't think it's very much fun. She said by the end of the season, she and Sutton reached a good place and we'll even see Sutton be a really good friend to her. Okay, so Sutton's going to be even more boring. Amanda adds that she and Erica also got to a pretty good place, and in present day, she feels close to both Kathy and Jennifer Tilly. Okay, that's surprising. I mean, I guess we'll see how that works. Because right now, I just feel like Kathy is like, who is this girl? Like, why am I hanging around her? Like, kind of, Kathy's just like, who the F are you? But, sometimes I could see Kathy, since Kathy has a little bit of kookiness in her, I could see her just maybe kind of finding Amanda amusing in a way. Like, that's kind of how I find her. She's so obnoxious, but I find it amusing how much she annoys everyone around her. I don't know why it's so funny to me. I think because I'm still mad at all of them about Garcelle. So I'm just kind of like, this is what you all deserve. Okay. You deserve to have to sleep in the same bed as Amanda. Okay. And listen to her prattle on about her businesses and how she pays for everything. Like that's what you all deserve. That's your prison sentence. Okay. I have to say, I never feel truly put together until I have a manicure. It just makes me feel better, gives me more confidence, but I'm so bad at doing them and I can't afford to be going to the salon all the time. And that's why I love Olive and June. I got their gel mani system and it has changed my life. I love not having to make an appointment at the salon and being able to do it as nice as the salon, but at home for way less money. Olive and June's gel mani system comes with everything you need for salon quality nails in one box. A 5-finger LED lamp, salon grade tools, and their HEMA-free gel polish that lasts up to 21 days. And they have an incredible selection of colors. Cashmere Kiss and Blush Jelly are my personal faves. And the best thing about Olive and June is how professional it looks compared to when I've tried to do it myself. It's honestly day and night. And I love being able to sit on my couch, watch The Real Housewives, relax, and do my nails. A dream. So visit oliveandjune.com/Bravo Papers for 20% off your first system. That's oliveandjune.com/BRAVOPAPERS for 20% off your first system. She also talked about her business being the biggest misconception surrounding her. She says that she owns a coaching business with 21,000 students and that 95% of her clients are happy with their purchase. She adds, if Bose's online course was successful in making money, would she still be critical? Oh, okay. Throwing a little shade there. She explains that Bose tried to create a personal development brand, but it did not go well. Amanda also says Bose is losing money on her courses and suggests that she should look in the mirror and see why Amanda's business really bothers her. Wow. Okay. That. Listen, I think a lot of people give Bose more leniency because she has like a credible resume and has worked for like these companies that everyone knows, like Netflix, etc. But Bose has actually tried to build, to give Amanda some credit here. She is right that Bose did try to build like a personal brand kind of like inspirational talks and motivational speaking kind of business. She did. I know she actually spoke at my friend's husband's company's like event. And he was like, is this one of the housewives? Like he was texting her and then she texted me, of course. So she does do that. Like I know she goes around and she speaks at like business things, etc. And I believe that she has tried to start like some sort of, online coaching where she just like gives advice and motivates and that kind of thing. And it like if we're being fair, those two businesses are in kind of the same wheelhouse. Like you're not providing a specific product, right? It's more like you're providing yourself as like a guru or so, etc. Now, I get Bose would probably, in reaction to that, say, well, I actually have like a resume to back all this up, and Amanda doesn't. That is true. That's a good point. But that being said, Amanda's resume, she would say, is her experiences, like leaving the cult, and you know what I mean? And people go for that kind of shit. I'm sorry, but it's true. So, I get what she's saying. I get what they're both saying, but I do think that there is a little bit of like hypocrisy in this group when it comes to that stuff. And again, I think Amanda just doesn't get away with it as much because she's so annoying. That's just, sometimes it just comes down to likability, right? So Amanda says she's also not meaning to one up people this season. She says what others call one upping, she calls trying to relate and connect. And that comes from a place of deep gratitude. See, she's so annoying. Like, it does not come from a place of deep gratitude. Shut up. Like, she's like, oh, I'm so grateful I can spend 10,000 on crystals. No, you're bragging, you're showing off. It's annoying. And if you have it, you don't have to say it. We will just see it on camera. Right? Amanda does as well in this interview talk a little bit about the quote unquote cult. She says she was deeply involved in a church for about 2 years that was highly controlling, manipulative, isolating, and abusive, and that it fits the definition of a cult. She said when she started her business, she started a blog, and and she says she's always been transparent about this, but her very first blog was the cult story. And the reason that was the cult story was because she was trying to make sense of what had happened and what she had been through and how it could happen to her. So kind of like, how could I have bought into this and been manipulated? And she says, it's not like a secret or fodder or something she's trying to like hide from people that they're digging up. She said it's right there on her blog. She's not ashamed of it. So, okay, fair enough, I guess. I think that, I don't like begrudge her talking about that. I do think that like if that did happen to her, she was part of some religion that was like super controlling. I think more people, should speak out on it. We give all these like people give all this praise to Heather Gay for breaking out of Mormonism. She wrote a whole book about it and talking about it. And it's like, because maybe Amanda's isn't like such a big religion that we all know about, some small sect of Christianity is kind of what she made it sound like, then it's like people just kind of make fun of it, but it does happen to people. I mean, again, I would need more details, and I could also see her making this story up to try and get people to buy into her manifestation. I would not be shocked by that. Nothing will shock me after, she's like small potatoes. We've been through Jen Shah and Erica Jane. Okay. So if she lied about that, I'd be like, all right, next. So Kyle, Kathy, and Paris Hilton were on Watch What Happens Live, and they had some things to say, mostly Kyle. Kyle said that she hasn't talked to PK in a while, and she says that she thinks she can repair things with Dorit, even though they're not speaking right now. So interesting. So I guess filming is wrapped. They have not filmed the reunion yet, but they are not speaking. Okay, good to know. So I guess they're going to try to hash things out at the reunion. I mean, if Kyle really gave a shit about Dorit, I'm sure she would be trying to make things right off camera before the reunion. But I guess after her text was read last year, she's not going to be doing that. But yeah, I do think that Kyle really doesn't care about having a friendship with Dorit. I think this is a friendship of convenience. It always was from the start. It was a friendship because Kyle was annoyed with Lisa Vanderpump and was like, I'm going to take your friend away, which she kind of did. And then they all turned on LVP. It was part of taking down LVP. Like, I don't think Kyle ever liked Dorit, and I will die on that hill. Kyle also said that her and Mo are not back together despite the rumor of them being together on New Year's Eve. She said they were at a party together and their family was there as well. And then Kathy's like, yeah, we know where that story came from. And Andy's like, where did it come from? And Kathy's like, well, she won't say where it came from. But, they imply that they know who put that story out there. And I was like, I would expect Kyle to put that story out there, but whatever. Anyways, or maybe she means Mauricio. I don't know. Because, Mauricio did that like People or whatever magazine where he's like doing all these like poses, trying to look hot. Like he does seem like, and then he was on the Valley Persian Style recently. We're seeing him on this show. We saw him on Real Housewives of Potomac. It's like he's chasing the cameras around. Like he seems pretty thirsty for attention. I'm not going to lie. Okay, do we have anything else from Kyle on Watch What Happens Live? No, but we have Erica on Watch What Happens Live, who said she didn't like the word accosted as used by Amanda. And she said, if you want to be on the show, you need to have thicker skin in this group. And Amanda didn't own her piece of the situation and kind of tried to put it on Kyle. Yes, I mean, I agree that you need thicker skin in this group. And Amanda's definitely like Karen. She's got like a Karen-esque part of her where she's like deeply offended by like a little thing. But that being said, okay, in terms of her dragging Kyle into it, I actually do think that this situation was Kyle's fault. And I'm always ready to hate on Kyle, but I actually really do think that it's not just because I don't like Kyle. Because Kyle was the one who she was like orchestrating the conversation and baiting Amanda into like answering these questions and giving her opinion. And then she totally lets her get thrown under the bus. And this is what Kyle does. She brings on some new person to be her little minion. She trains them. And then when the group doesn't like them and the audience and the group turns on them, Kyle turns their back on that person. She did the exact same thing with Anna Marie. Remember Anna Marie? And now she's doing the exact same thing with Amanda. And trust me, she gives 0 Fs about Amanda. Like Kyle doesn't care about her at all. Right. So, I think that it's kind of nice, actually. I think it's kind of good that Amanda dragged Kyle into it because Kyle did start this. Like, I'm sorry. I'm always watching you, Kyle. You're not getting away. And listen, Amanda still had a place in it and she could have just easily said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoke on your divorce when I don't know you that well. Like, that's all she had to say. But again, Amanda's, a nut. Like, she can't just do that. So that's why I said she's low hanging fruit. It's so easy to win and go after her. So Erica also said that, oh no, sorry, that was it. Meanwhile, Rachel Zoe was on Watch What Happens Live with Reza, and they both discussed a few things Beverly Hills. So let's start with Rachel Zoe. So she says that she doubts her ex-husband is watching the show. She says that he has said a few things and he's not thrilled. And, she kind of implies that he's not thrilled about things that she's saying about him, obviously. But she says that, that's how she was authentically feeling in the moment. And she didn't expect to be as open as she was, but she was. She also says the divorce, and good, he can suck it because he seems like a dick. She says the divorce will be finalized soon and it's actually going pretty amicably for the kids. So that's good because based on how she's talked about it and all that kind of stuff, I have definitely been worried about his reaction and how that's going to affect her divorce because this guy doesn't seem like the most stable ex. She also says that filming the Rachel Zoe project was way harder than Beverly Hills because it was like 24/7 and it was all on her because she was like the star of it, of course. She says Beverly Hills is exhausting and it's not easy, but at least it's like all the pressure's not on her, which makes sense. She also says that at BravoCon, she did hit it off with someone and became friends. Jesse Lawley from the Valley. It's funny because she can't remember his name at first, so I don't think they're that close, but she said they presented together and he was really nice. She said nothing like romantic, like it's not like that, but she said, you know, they became friends and she really liked him. So there you go. That's going to be good for Jesse because you know Jesse wants people to like him and wants to not be the villain. Like, you know that 100%. Now, Reza, who was also on with Rachel Zoe, was asked about Beverly Hills stuff by Andy, of course, being messy. And Andy kind of asked him, like, why do you think, Kyle, like, what do you think is at the root of Kyle and Dorit's drama and confrontations? Reza says that he thinks that Kyle is irritated because Dorit isn't falling in line the way Kyle did when LVP was like the queen of Beverly Hills. So basically, he says that, LVP was like the grand dame of Beverly Hills, as he says. And he said, now that LVP's gone and Kyle's in charge, she wants everyone to just fall in line, but Dorit is not doing that. I think he's right. Okay. I fully agree with him on this. He's always had it in for Kyle Richards. He always talks about her being overrated, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's kind of refreshing to hear another Bravo celebrity who's not afraid to say that because it seems like everyone kisses Kyle Richards' ass and it's obnoxious. And can we just call a spade a spade? So I appreciate that. And I think he's absolutely right. I think she wants Dorit to just be in her, like, she wants her own, like, she wants her Fox Force 5 to just be all like playing by her game. That's why she had so many issues with Sutton before, because Sutton and Garcelle were kind of not buying into that. So now Sutton's buying into it. So Sutton's a good girl. Erica's always been a good little follower. And now Dorit, who was a good little follower, isn't doing it anymore. And that's really, and I agree with him. Sorry. I think that really is the key to their downfall, like 100%. Okay, do we have any more Beverly Hills news? No, we don't. So let's talk about the Valley Persian style, since we're already talking about what Reza said, because he was, of course, asked about his own show when he was on Watch What Happens Live with Rachel Zoe. And basically, Andy asked Reza's response to Tommy being against Mare inviting Reza, Gigi, and Adam to her open house on the most recent episode. He said, so Tommy was upset about that. By the way, if you're not watching this show, you're crazy. It's honestly like my favorite new show on Bravo right now. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good. So just get on it. I promise. There's new people on it that are so good for reality TV. Like it's going to be so good. Well, it is so good, I should say. Give it 10 more seasons. So he says he respects that Tommy is in a different place than them. Because they Reza, Gigi, and Mare have kind of like moved on. He says, Tommy's in 1982 and the rest of them have all kind of moved forward. So Reza cannot help himself to throw a bit of shade. Listen, I think I think that was a mistake. I think Tommy has the right to not want to be around these people. Like, I don't know, maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I don't know. I don't think it is based on what I see online. I think I think his wife almost died during childbirth. And I think that's a very, very traumatic thing for somebody. Okay. And none of these people were there for her in a moment where she literally almost died. Okay. So I can understand how he's not over that. It's his own fault for going to Adam and Reza's and picking up the plants and throwing them around or whatever. He shouldn't have done that. That was, his own mistake and his own fault. But, I can also see him not wanting to be friends with someone who put a restraining order about it on him, who made it legal and like got him arrested and whatever. Like, I can understand all of that. And I can understand him just being like, I'm good. I don't need these people in my life. Like, I don't need to be a part of it. I can get that. And I can also understand Mare, wanting everyone to move forward, but she does have to get like it seems like she has to understand that I don't think like the show and that kind of like fame, etc., is that important to Tommy. I think it is more important to Mare. And I think that's why she's like, my life will be so much easier if my husband will just film with these people. Because Bravo, this is production and they're the ones who are pushing this. And Tommy knows that. Like, I don't think Tommy thinks that Reza and them authentically are sorry and want to be friends with him again. I think he knows that it's just for the show. And he's just like, I'm not going to bullshit. So I don't know. I don't blame him for that. And case in point, here comes Reza on Watch What Happens Live. First chance he has, he's like throwing shade at Tommy and being like, he's in 1982. So, Tommy's going to hear this, I'm sure, this clip and be like, there you go. My point has been proven. Reza has not changed at all. Everything he does is for his public image and for drama. And he's probably just doesn't want to be around people like that. And I don't really blame him. Okay, let's go to some Summer House news because Carl has a podcast. I think it's called More Life. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, which, I mean, I guess that makes sense for Carl. He had Kyle on as one of his first guests. And Carl asked Kyle, how do you handle watching episodes? Do you watch them alone? Do you watch them with Amanda? And Kyle said, for the first 6 or 7 seasons, I forgot when we stopped, but Amanda and I would always watch the episodes together. Now, sometimes that led us to literally having the exact same fight we just watched. Like, it was almost like we picked up right where we left off. I think once we'd kind of gone through, I forget what summer it was, but whether it was 6 or 7, where it was a tough season to watch, I think that's when Amanda was like, I'd rather not watch with you. And we stopped watching together. So what we did was we decided to ignore all of our problems and just pretend they didn't exist, which, listen, I don't blame them for like, you already had that fight, you already made up and moved past it. So I don't really blame them for like wanting to stop watching that stuff together. But yeah, I do think that a lot of Amanda and Kyle's issues revolve around them kind of just, pretending they're okay in a situation where they're not okay. Pretending they want the same things when they don't. There was, at least for a while, until they couldn't do it anymore and it all kind of blew up in their face. Now, there was a Summer House like premiere party recently, and Kyle made a speech to Amanda. And he actually thanked her for being there on the journey with him and said he'd still be there for her. And then whoever filmed this at the premiere party shows Kyle making this speech. And then they pan over to Amanda, who is tearing up. So it does seem like they still have, like love for each other and that they're still, like they still care about each other. This has been a hard journey and they both have something they can kind of connect on that a lot of people can't, which is like having a divorce and a breakup in a very public manner. And like literally their entire relationship has been on television. So, I do hope that the two of them can be like authentic friends one day. Maybe not right away, because I think everyone needs space for a while, but I do hope they can get there one day. So speaking of the premiere party, there's also these rumors from the premiere party that Sally Carson from Southern Charm was getting cozy with Kyle Cook at the Summer House premiere party. Okay. Now, from what I've heard, it's not true. However, I could see that maybe she was at the party and that while she was there, maybe she, knowing Sally, she was probably flirting. And Kyle, knowing Kyle, he was also flirting, right? So the two of them were probably flirting. They were probably both drunk and drinking. And, this is how rumors start. Because from what I've seen, it seems like Sally and Austin are maybe a thing, or that she's still into Austin. So I don't know. Like it seems a little confusing to me. But it's kind of like, it's getting to be a lot with Sally and these Bravo guys, you know, there's a little bit of thirst happening in terms of just the range. I think 'cause she dated Joe Bradley on Southern Hospitality, and then she seemed like so into Craig, and then it was like snap of the fingers she was into Austin, and then, you know, and then now there's a rumor about Kyle. I mean, maybe that's not her fault. There's a rumor about Kyle. It just happened, but still, it doesn't look great. It looks like, you know, you're trying to secure a spot on television for a longer haul. Like it just kind of has that look to it. Now, that being said, there are other rumors of couplings. A lot of people asking about if Sierra and West are together. So, Dumois was saying how a lot of people are in her DMs asking about Sierra and West, and said that on the recent Watch What Happens Live, Sierra made it seem, or she made comments that made it seem like it could be. Basically, Dumois' answer was, I don't know, but that West was seen 2 weeks ago with an unidentified brunette. Okay. And then they show it's a very blurry picture of them walking out in like snowstorm, New York City. The left is West, the right is Sierra. And like, well, I don't know if it's Sierra. You really can't tell. Like they're wearing a big winter jacket. Like you can't see like their neck or their face. You can't see, even with West, you can't, like, I'm just taking their word for it that this is West. It could be literally not West. Like you can't see really anything. So now I'm sure whoever sent that in maybe saw them like before they crossed the street or in whatever place they were in, but then wouldn't they know it was Sierra? So that's what I'm saying. So it remains as unidentified brunette, which makes me think it's not Sierra because most people would recognize her. So I don't know. So that's kind of the case with them. Now, Sierra and Amanda were, as I just said, on Watch What Happens Live. Amanda said, when asked about, you know, people who've reached out, etc., she said Paige was very supportive of her separation. Of course she was. Paige never liked Kyle, really, let's be honest. And she says she has not spoken to Hannah because Andy says the number one question is, has Hannah reached out to you? And Amanda says no, but she doesn't need to reach out. Like that's, you know, it's not like they have like a bad blood between them and like it's up to Hannah to like start a friendship with her again. Like she's like, Hannah's living her best life. Amanda also said she does not think she would ever hook up with Summer House cast members. She says there wasn't one. She says she's kind of on the same page with Sierra with that, which I don't know if Sierra is on that page because this season is making it look like she's ready to go back to West. And I don't know. I think if a new guy comes into the house that Sierra likes, I think she would go for it, which is okay. By the way, you're allowed to do that. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the line they're going with. And I think same as Amanda. I think if a guy came in and Amanda really liked him, that being said, I don't think Amanda's going to be on the show that much longer based on this whole like in the city spinoff. She says that there was not one final straw with Kyle. She says they moved out shortly before BravoCon. Okay, so that I mean, I remember there being weird vibes between them at BravoCon, and you know, I commented on that. A lot of people commented on that, and then you had those people that were like, "That's how marriages are. You guys read too much into this stuff." No, vibes and energy between people is a thing. Okay, thus proven. So, she said that she doesn't have a prenup, and she wishes she did. Yeah. Remember when we all told you, including your father, about that? Get the prenup. I'll never forget her being on Watch What Happens Live and being like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just didn't really understand what it was. And it just sounds like it is the age of information. Okay. Google exists. Like, I'm sorry, that was not an excuse. I think Amanda just wanted to get down the aisle so bad, and it was just such a mistake because she has like family money and stuff, and I don't think Kyle's going to go after it. So it sounds like they're fairly amicable at this stage, but you just never know, right? Now, she says that she's not planning on, she said it'll be okay though, that her and Kyle will be okay. She implies that she's not coming after Loverboy and that's his baby and he's worked so hard on it. And Andy's like, well, so did you. And then she's like, yeah, no, I know. But like Amanda should get some of Loverboy. Like, I think she should get at least a bit of it. Like, she did, she was there from the ground up and she's been working for the company since the start. So, you know, I don't know why she says she wishes she had the prenup. I guess maybe just because it would make things easier and then it would just, maybe they could just split in a more clean way. Maybe that's why. Because it sounds like he's got maybe more to lose than she does. But then again, I go back to like, okay, maybe Amanda has this like family money, but why would he get access to that? I don't even know. Okay. Anyways, I guess maybe we'll find out more at the reunion. Um, Amanda also says that they're sharing the dogs. That's going well. They had 2 dogs. They each kept one and then they bring them back together frequently and then they also swap. And that the dogs are like really excited when they see each other, but that, they would fight a lot and stuff. So they're kind of happy being apart, I guess. So they basically have shared custody of the dogs. That's really the final bottom line here is, which I guess that's good. Good to have final custody of the dogs and have that all shared and worked out. And, that's always a hard thing. She said they're both on the same page, though, about like, we want the dogs to be happy. Well, that's good. It's a step in the right direction. I have a bad feeling, though, that as this season airs and things play out on camera and the audience has opinions and those opinions get translated into comments on Kyle's Instagram and DMs and tweets and them getting calls from Page 6 to comment on things and so on and so on. I have a bad feeling that the divorce is going to go from amicable to not as amicable, especially when the two of them see how each other is painting the other in confessionals and behind each other's back, which, Amanda's really going for the like, he's drinking too much, staying out late, implied cheating, and Kyle's now starting to go with the like hoarder, mess, lazy, smokes weed every night drug problem. So it's already, and we're only 2 episodes in. Is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2. So that's not good. It's definitely not a good sign, is what I'm going to say. Okay, we're going to end it off there. And I'll be back with you with another Bravo Weekly News next week. Hope you all have a fantastic long weekend. For my Canadian listeners who have a Family Day weekend, I don't know if Americans have a long weekend this weekend. Maybe they do. I don't know. If you do, I hope it's great. If you don't, I hope your regular weekend is great. Wishing everyone a happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate, and you are now in the know for everything Bravo. Until next time, bye.